there. Thanks for watching. I'm Shane, and you're watching the AIM portion of the Brain Show today. So thanks for coming and hanging out with us. We got to talk about CNN and this explosive argument on immigration that devolved into a whose race has it worse thing. I don't know if you guys saw this yet, but if not, we're going to walk through it. And I'm not making this up. It was very interesting. And the only thing I ask from you is if you guys could please smash that like button for us. And if you like this daily content and you want to subscribe, that would be awesome. We're currently at about 6,500 subscribers and growing, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with us every day. And of course, if you're looking to join the full Brain Show and other people in the community, come with us live on Saturdays at 12 o'clock. And with that said, let's talk about this CNN drama. Okay, let me break it down to you. Here's what happened. We had on CNN yesterday, we had basically, you guys know CNN. It's being destroyed by ratings, right? So it's just had a horrible run. You've heard it everywhere. People aren't really watching CNN the way they used to. And, they've attempted to pull in more viewers by giving a larger voice to Scott Jennings and a few others. Yesterday's host, Abby Phillip, she reported that a California federal judge ordered warrants to be served for any illegal immigrant before they can be detained. So it was kind of a 4-on-2. We had Shermichael Singleton. He was the other conservative voice on the panel. And the argument turned into evidence that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy who was sent to El Salvador, whether he was in a gang or not. So let's have a little listen and we'll talk about this.
I am going to move on. I'm going to move on because this is not a conversation about the tattoos. One of the other things that happened this week is that a California judge said that you can't just scoop people up and deport them without a warrant. And in that case, basically the judge is saying, you're basically taking anybody who's in a particular area. If they don't want to talk to you, you're taking them, detaining them, and assuming that they are deportable, and that you can't really do that anymore.
What the judge is saying is nothing radical. This is basically comports with existing law. It comports with decades of decisions around this matter, which in pure layman's basic terms means that ICE agents cannot go after people, arrest them and detain them solely on the basis of being having brown skin and being working class. And what was so interesting about this case for me is that the Border Patrol did not contest any of the allegations.
They actually claimed that they changed.
I love that look by Scott Jennings. If you guys don't know who Scott Jennings is, this guy, he's the only reason I really even care to watch CNN because I love his takes. But he's been with CNN since 2017. He must have high blood pressure, man, because I can't imagine arguing with these people constantly. Anyways, he worked in the Bush Jr. administration when he was president. Let's keep taking a look.
Right,
their response was just that they were going to do better training, and this issue is right in line with the Mr. Abrego Garcia case. It's a question of due process. Whatever we feel about Mr. Abrego Garcia, it's honestly irrelevant. It's a question for the immigration judge.
On Mr. Garcia, we keep saying that there's no evidence that this guy belonged to a gang.
No evidence in court filings.
That's not true.
Okay, so he's going to lay it out here for you a little bit. Just Shermichael Singleton, so the guy you see talking here, he's a Republican strategist and a black conservative. He worked for Ben Carson and Newt Gingrich. While he's really no fan for Trump, he is strongly against illegal immigration. So just so you can kind of know who he is.
No, that is true.
Michael, that is true.
No. Hold on.
We always have to play this game of interrupting people when they're talking.
But you're
saying...
What
is the point of me being on the show if I can never finish my freaking point?
Okay,
this is getting really annoying, Abby.
Hold on.
Everyone else has made their statements. I have yet to say anything.
Hold on a second, okay?
I mean, Jesus.
Hold on a
Why
second.
are you so angry?
Because I want to say something, and I have a point of view to make here as well.
Hang on just one second. Shermichael, let me ask you a question. The question is, has the government presented evidence in court that Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13?
And my response...
And the answer is no.
She doesn't even let him answer his own question. She asks him a question, and then she says, the answer is no. So she asked him a question and answered it. Just so you guys know, CNN anchor Abby Phillips, she's a Harvard grad. She wrote for the Crimson paper there. She's a major leftist, and it's just typical, doesn't even let him answer it. Let's see how he responds.
Oh, that has not happened in court. But it doesn't mean that they have not made those claims publicly. It doesn't mean that those claims are not in police reports.
In 2019.
It doesn't mean that they're not in police reports. They're just not statements that were made in
2019, the immigration judge at the time believed the Prince George's County gang unit and the evidence that they presented before that judge at the time that Mr. Garcia did indeed belong to a gang. This is not my opinion. People can Google this crap.
Okay, so in 2019, a judge determined he was part of a gang. Come on, don't let facts get in the way of your feelings, right? Okay, so let's keep going.
They can Google this. CBS reported on this. If a judge believed it in 2019, is it now all of a sudden not true?
The judge granted him a withholding of removal.
No, I acknowledge that fact.
Which is a different issue. Hold on.
But the point remains that a judge found the evidence to be credible that Mr. Garcia did indeed belong to a gang. So now all of a sudden we're just not going to believe judges?
The judge
we can't have it both ways.
I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but my only point is that the government has not presented beyond the police report. They have not actually presented the evidence to prove that he belonged to this gang.
So police reports not considered evidence before a court of law? Do judges not consider police reports? What are we saying
but
here?
Sure, Michael, what was the original?
Relevant.
I actually want to finish the point.
It absolutely is relevant to the argument from the administration, which is that Mr. Garcia belonged to a gang as one of the reasons of deporting him out of the country. And you guys are saying there's no truth to it. There's no facts to it. That's not true.
The Constitution is very clear. It does not say citizens. It says no person should be deprived of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without due process. It doesn't matter what he's done in his past. The Boston
Okay, so he's going to get into this, and this is actually great to watch. But just real quick, life, liberty. This guy is right. It is true. It does the Fourth Amendment rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's true. Once you get to this country, people have rights under our laws. If you come, but here's the thing: if you come to this country illegally and you live within 100 miles of a border, and let me show you this real quick. If you live 100 miles from a border, then you actually can be detained, searched, and questioned. So if you take a look at this, that's pretty big, pretty lot of cities. Most of the cities, I would say 2 out of 3 people who live in the United States live within this range. So it does give this kind of unilateral search and seizure, by the ICE agents who are doing it. There's some things that they do have to follow. So they have to have like a reasonable suspicion of what's going on. So you're not allowed to just round up a bunch of people because they're brown or black or whatever color, because you think they might be illegal. You have to have a reasonable suspicion that something's going on. And in a lot of these cases, they already know the people who've missed their hearings. They're looking for very specific people. But in some cases, they have probably rounded up people that they shouldn't have. It's part of the process. I mean, you're talking about they've already deported over 100,000 people in the first 100 days of Trump's office. But there's literally 20 million people in the last 5 years or so that need to still be gone through. And when these people come here for asylum, you have to remember what can they do? They can say, hey, listen, I'm here for asylum. They get all these reasons: race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, political opinion. All of these reasons you can claim asylum and stay in this country. And so the problem with that is the asylum backlog. So let's say they can get here and they get this due process. The asylum backlog right now is sometimes as much as 10 years for somebody to go through the entire process. Our government has set it up in such a way that it's very easy to get here and very hard to send you home. The problem is, in the past, nobody really wanted to send people home. They didn't really care if somebody got deported because it wasn't that big of a deal. But when Trump does it, all of a sudden it's a huge deal. So, but check this out. Check this series. If you do come into this country, and you don't appear at your asylum interview, which could take place, at least right now, the backlog is over 3 years. So if you don't show up at your asylum interview in 3 years, then failure to appear, you're going to get a warning letter shipped to wherever you're supposed to be, likely not there. If you miss that, then you can possibly be deported, but you'll be referred to an immigration court where you'll have an immigration hearing. Okay, and if that judge gives you a removal order, then now you may be able to appeal your decision, keeping you in this country for more than 10 years. Okay, so imagine 20 million people trying to get rid of them. And that's what the left, the Democrats, are trying to key in on so that Trump can't deport people. They wanted them to come here easily. Now they're trying to get rid of them very slowly and difficultly. Let's keep listening to what's going on here.
Wait a minute. Let me finish. The Boston bomber had due process.
Yeah, that's
okay?
had due process.
That's what this is about.
Wait,
I gave you time. Let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead,
okay?
go ahead.
This is a president who continues to twist the Constitution to adapt to whatever his vision is, to the point of the 2-year-old who was deported without due process, an American citizen. His father did not want him to go, and the only access he had to his daughter was listening to his daughter cry in the background in a 1-minute call. That 4-year-old did not get access to a doctor, despite the fact of having stage 4 cancer, did not have his medication with him when he was deported, an American citizen, to Honduras. This is what this president is doing.
It's never going to be perfect. You're always going to have stories, 1s, 2s, 10s, 20s, when you're trying to, process millions of people. This is going to happen, and they're always going to have these stories. And the problem is that these narratives are what the left holds on to convince people who aren't paying attention to the news that these are bad things that are occurring. Yes, you are going to have some. Nothing's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But the system, if done properly, can be done well.
He is twisting the definition of the Constitution, and people like you are disparaging character to try to justify the disparaging.
I'm not disparaging due process does matter.
Did
You're
he
right
have
about
due
that.
process?
But the idea that Mr. Garcia's past doesn't matter is ludicrous.
But we live
in a sovereign nation, and this idea that people can just come into our country and do whatever the heck they want to do is absurd to me. And if Democrats want to die on this hill, I promise you'll regret it politically. So go right ahead. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. We don't want people breaking our laws coming into our country. That is a fact.
Let me let Scott have a word, and then we'll move on.
It seems to me that the political analysis of this, though, is, and a lot of average people are looking at it this way. Why is it that we can let 20 million people into the country just walk across, whatever, and there's no real process for them to do that, but then we have to individually pick out every single person and go through years upon years upon years of paperwork and this and that and the other, and all we're trying to do is send them back to where they came from because they came here illegally in the first place. 20 million in with no process. How do you get 20 million out with years and years of people fighting every single case? You can cherry pick any case you want.
So that's the real problem here, right? Now, in the past, when Obama and Bush and other people were deporting, nobody really questioned it. They assumed that the process was going correctly. And for the most part, these people were here illegally, so they were sent out. But now it's going to take years and years and years to process these people. And of course, the Dems are holding on to any sort of way to keep the people here in this country because, of course, multiple reasons. It helps shift the lines because when it comes to, voting lines and how many representatives you get, it's not about citizens, it's about number of bodies. So the more number of bodies you can get into certain areas means the more representatives in Congress you can have. And of course, the more you can have in like a Democratic area, which a lot of the poor areas are, which means the more votes they're going to get and the more control over the government they can have, which is why they want this to happen and why they're dragging their feet and they don't want it to turn around. So let's keep listening.
But the reality is the crisis that put Donald Trump in the White House was caused over years and years and years of neglect and letting people walk into here without any process at all. And now you're trying to gum up the works to keep them here.
A lot of them came in. A lot of them came in with parole. A lot of them came in.
CNN polling shows 54% of Americans want Mr.
November
Rodrigo
polling
Garcia
showed Donald
back.
Trump won the
That's
election.
CNN polling.
CNN polling. Yep.
Well, you know
The
what?
Republic is
You
shifting.
know what?
All right.
We are a sovereign
Guys.
nation, and you cannot just come into our
All right.
country illegally whenever the heck you want, because we can't do it to any other country on the face of
Asylum
this earth.
is a legal
If
right.
you come in
Can't
illegally,
revoke due
you have to
process
leave.
either. You
Americans are
can't
tired of
revoke
that. We
due
do not have unlimited
You
resources.
know who was here
We have to
illegally
care
with
for
a
our own people
deportation order?
first.
Marco Rubio's grandfather.
All right. Let's.
We're not talking about
let's-
Marco Rubio.
Oh, now
Anna.
we're not? Now that's
No,
not relevant?
it's not
No,
relevant.
I'm talking
It's not
about
relevant.
Marco.
Okay, so this is where it gets heated. It starts getting hot. This lady talking right now is Ana Navarro Cardenas. She's a Nicaraguan American who is a self-claimed centrist who was against Trump but supported Kamala Harris in the last election. Special note here, she is a legal immigrant and comes from a wealthy agricultural Nicaraguan family. So her family's wealthy, came from Nicaragua. It might have something to do with how she feels. Let's see. And by the way, it gets hot here. Real quick, you'll want to watch this.
Marco
to this
Rubio, because
conversation
Marco
at
Rubio
all.
used to be an advocate for TPS for Venezuelans, and Marco Rubio used
Well,
to
I'm
be
not Marco
an
Rubio,
advocate
and
for
let me
Nicaraguans
tell you
and
my
Cubans.
beliefs.
No,
If
I
you
know
come
you're
into
not.
this country illegally, you are going home. Simple as
Okay.
that. We do not
Listen,
have unlimited
I
resources
think
in
a
this
lot of
country
Americans-
to take care of other
There's
people.
a hell of
We
a
have
lot
our
of
own
people,
Hold on,
other
guys.
than the
first,
black
Anna.
people who were brought here as slaves who came to this country illegally.
They're
From a
not
lot
the
of
same as
different-
black people who were brought here against
That's
our will.
exactly what I
They
just said.
decided
I
to
said
walk
there is
their
a
butts
lot of
across the
people
border.
other
There's a big
than the
difference.
black
There is
people.
a big
That's
difference.
exactly what
There's
I
a
just
big
said.
difference.
That's
Chair Michael,
exactly what I
Chair
just said,
Michael
Chair Michael.
and
Look and
Anna.
act indignant. That's
Okay.
exactly what
It's
I
not
just
about
said.
acting
I-
indignant.
Yes, it is.
let me
You
know
just
if
heard
it's
me
Chair
say
Michael.
other than the black
Anna
people
and
who
Chair
came
Michael.
as
With more
slaves.
high ground
There are
here.
a lot of people from
Chair
many,
Michael, I think
many
you
countries
actually
that came
misheard
here
what
illegally.
I think you misheard what she said.
No, he purposely misheard it.
She said.
I purposely
Yes, you
misheard.
did.
So now you're in my
Chair
brain?
Michael, listen to me for
Is
just a
that,
second.
is that where we're going?
You
Chair
think
Michael,
I would
listen to me
say
for a
I who
second.
have advocated
Anna,
for black
please
people
stop.
my entire life would
Anna,
say something like that?
Anna,
Give me a
Because
damn
you've
break.
advocated for black
Anna,
people,
please
great.
stop.
Congratulations. Last time I checked, I'm black. You're not.
Okay, Chair Michael.
That's
this
right.
is-
I'm Latino, and my people are being racially
It is-
profiled.
it is-
and
And
And do I have to
unfairly
remind
treated.
you the history of my people?
Chair
Do I
Michael,
want to
have to
go
read-
there?
no, I
Do
don't.
you really
Okay,
want to go
we're
there?
gonna
and
go to
never
break.
hide
I know the
ground?
history of
Raul,
your
we're
people.
going to go to
You know
break.
why?
Raul
Because
Reyes,
it's
thank you very much for
history.
joining us.
People have
Everybody
discriminated
else,
against my
hang
own people
tight.
as
History
well.
was not
We'll be right back.
erased when I was studying history like the
And they had to go to break for that one. So, yeah, amazing, right? Let's take a look at this. So, so can this judge require a warrant? It's murky. Like I was talking about the 100-mile border enforcement zone, you don't have to have a warrant in order to detain somebody, especially if they were here the last 2 years. They can be moved pretty quickly. But this whole warrant thing is just another way to kind of slow down the process. And ICE was making some mistakes. I think they weren't clear on all of their rules. And I know that they just came out with some new requirements that they said, listen, we need to make sure we're identifying the right people. They did try to they went into, they had a warrant actually in this case to go into a home where the illegal immigrants were no longer there. It was actually newly citizens of the country, although they were brown people. And so, they were of course detained and questioned. And so that's a problem, so we have to try to, we cannot put our citizens at risk over this process, and we need to make sure that we're doing it right. Absolutely. Very true. But at the same time, if you're dragging your feet in order to keep these people here for political reasons, I have no respect for you. Let's take a look at, no, not look at that yet. So what would I do? Actually, no, let's take a look at this first. So look at the stupidity here. Now, this is the problem with the brain rot going on the left, especially. So here's this cartoon. I'm just following orders, 1830s, American West, 1940s, Nazi Germany. I'm just following orders. Now, ICE, I'm just following orders, President of USA. And they show, of course, a woman and her children. This was a tweet by Christopher Webb. History does not repeat itself, but it often rhymes. This is ridiculous. This is idiocy. So you're going to compare deporting illegal immigrants back to their country of origin with the Nazis slaughtering Jews and Native Americans being kicked off of their own land. You're telling me that that's the same thing, right? I'm telling you, just a little bit of common sense really goes a long ways. And we're going to talk about this right now. But coming back to me for a second here. So, the bottom line is, what should you do? What's reasonable? I mean, are we going to spend the next, all of Trump's term trying to process people that it's probably going to take the terms of the next 2 or 3 presidents to process? And by then, if we end up putting somebody on the left, this whole thing stops. What can we do? Well, I'll tell you what, this is what I would do. If I was in charge and I could unilaterally decide exactly the way we were going to deal with immigration, this is what I would do. Now, I grew up in Southern California in immigrant farm communities. That's where I lived. Okay, these were my friends. These were my neighbors. We didn't look alike, but we lived in the same areas together. And most of them, they're just trying to survive. Okay, so we definitely need to have some compassion and also some common sense. If you came to this country before 2020 and you haven't broken any laws, you need to get a path to citizenship. This is what I believe. Okay, you would get a path to citizenship. You should learn English. Okay, you should learn about our Constitution and have a feeling of pride to be a U.S. citizen. Okay, that's what I feel like. If you're part of the 20 million people that came when Biden opened the gates and you have a child citizen here in this country and you have not broken any laws, then you should get a path to citizenship. That's what I believe. Okay, you're here. You got a child here. Congratulations. You did it. And it's our own country's fault for allowing you to do it. Same process. You should go through, you should learn English, learn about the Constitution, have a pride to become a U.S. citizen, want to be here. Okay? Everyone else needs to go. And the border needs to remain closed. So that means anybody who came here after 2020 and you don't fit in those categories, you need to go. The border needs to remain closed to everyone except legal immigrants who came in via a port of entry legally. Okay? Then we fix our laws to reflect this because of, and also because of low birth rates. We still need legal immigrants to come in this country. So we should keep that. Right now, it's about 1 million people a year we allow in legally to this country. And we should flex that from between 1 and 2 million people, depending on our birth rates, depending on how many people we need, because we will always need talented, honest, and good immigrants in our country. That's never going to change. Okay. And the last thing I want to show you guys here before we go is, so this was a tweet that came out. This is Trump's, special gold visa, right? Or you can buy, or path to citizenship for $5 million for rich people. And it says the illegals, if you can purchase U.S. citizenship for $5 million, the illegals are only guilty of being poor. And, to me, this is part of the mentality problem. Let me ask you a question. Doesn't a country have a right to require the non-citizens it lets into the country not to hurt the country? Right? So imagine a lifeboat with people trying to survive themselves. And actually, I didn't realize I didn't show you guys this. My bad here. Hold on. So yeah, if you can purchase U.S. citizenship for $5 million, the illegals are only guilty of being poor. This was, of course, the Trump gold thing. Now let me come back to here and show you what I want. So imagine a lifeboat, okay, with people trying to survive themselves. They're in this boat, they're trying to survive. Somehow they're not in the water, and they're suddenly inundated with people in the water trying to get in the boat, okay? Eventually, if enough people get on, that boat is going to sink, okay? And do you know what? Do you know which Americans that are in that boat are going to pay that price? The poor ones, the ones who are barely hanging on. Because the new people in the boat will require the resources of the country that the poor citizens belong to. Okay, and how long before those resources are so overburdened that the people that belong in that country, the people who are citizens but were born in that country, that this is where they come from, that they no longer can succeed because of the people coming there. And when you look at this gold visa thing that Trump has, that he's trying to do, rich people are not in the boat. Rich immigrants are not in the boat. They're not impacted by illegal immigration. It's only the poor people, the people who are trying to make it, that are. Those are the people being hurt. So with that said, that's pretty much what I got for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed that crazy argument on CNN that devolved into racial. It's funny because, for a Latin woman to compare, and she tried to backtrack saying she wasn't comparing herself to comparing the Latin to the black people, but she was. And then she tried to, if you go back and watch it, it's obvious. And of course, he wasn't going to take that. I mean, obviously, slaves who were brought here against their will are different than illegal immigrants who came across, who wanted to come to this country. Okay, the black people did not want to come to this country. They were forced here against their will. Huge difference, stupid argument, and it was hilarious to watch. So anyways, thanks for watching today. If you guys can, again, hit that like button, subscribe, and talk with me in the comments below. I've been engaging with everybody. Ask some questions, have some comments about what we talked about here today, and let's have a conversation. And of course, I should be here every day. Also, join the Full Brain Show on Saturday at 12 at noon. And I can't wait to see you guys then and talk with you guys in the chat. And I'll tell you what, we will see you guys soon. Take care.
Here comes the